That's awesome.
So have you worked with anybody at Fox Sports? I take it.
I mean, you mentioned he came over from the media side. He's now the head of sponsorship at LAFC, Los Angeles Football Club. And then when I was with Minnesota Timberwolves, did Fox Sports North, but yeah, mainly on the broadcast side. Nothing outside of that.
When did you come to Legends?
6 weeks ago. So,
Sweet.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So the LAFC project was Legends though. It was just like we're, as you said, one label agnostic. So when I was LAFC, but I always had the tools and resources of Legends that I could go and reach out to. So technically I was on the project because of Legends.
Yeah.
But this is, I'm now at Legends Corporate, which is totally different. So I'm not representing anybody but Legends.
Well, bringing anything in with Legends, bringing everything in-house though. White label would work as well.
Yeah, and I'll hit on a little bit of that. Yeah, well, some of the stuff that we were able to do at LAFC, but now we offer all the properties. We have a property here too on the attraction side. This is kind of the new space where we're entering into outside of sports and entertainment. Because we do a lot of like amphitheaters, including the Live Nation. And then we also obviously the stadium side we do a lot too. Now we're starting to get the attraction side. So there's the Skyview over in Columbia Center. So that's a Legends property.
A good friend at Live Nation, Jackie, she's
Okay.
and if you ever need,
Okay.
an introduction.
Yeah.
She is
Appreciate that.
phenomenal.
She in LA?
She's in, she hops from LA to London.
Okay.
She's international. She's global marketing. So
Okay.
she was the sole
All right. I can do that. I guess. That's So I would say first and foremost, thank you for attending. Hopefully this is informative, exciting, exhilarating information that you can go ahead and take and apply somewhere else. I would ask, because it is such a small group, like feel free to fire off questions at any point in time. More than happy to go ahead and make this a conversation. Would much rather appreciate that than going through the slides. Fortunate enough to know Troy for a long period of time. Through that, he connected with me. Ironically enough, I was already going to be in Seattle, so it worked out perfectly. But my name's Corey Breton, Chief Revenue Officer of Legends Global Attractions. And then I'll go through that a little bit. It's a new division of Legends. It's fairly young, and then we kind of can go through some of the conversation. How many people are Seattle local? So everybody, except for one? All right, semi-local. Cool. So we'll hit on actually Skyview Observatory. So the observation deck in the Columbia Center, that's actually part of the Legends Attractions portfolio. So we'll hit on that too. But overall, my career, I spent 15 years in the NBA, or 12 years in the NBA, 3 years in the MLS, but a total of 15 years on the ticket sales side and the sponsorship side, really the overall sales side when it comes to sports. I was fortunate enough to go ahead and work for a variety of different NBA teams, and I'm just going to go ahead and sit, just as FYI, this is really too informal. So I had an opportunity to go and work with the Phoenix Suns right out of college, and then transitioned to Atlanta to work for the Hawks and Thrashers when they had a hockey team before it moved for Winnipeg, which was a unique situation to go and be in. You never expect to go and work for a team or a club that's going to go ahead and literally be there on Friday and then leave on Monday to go ahead and head up to a different city. And then I had the ability to go up to Minnesota, work for the Minnesota Timberwolves and Lynx. And then most I was with the Los Angeles Football Club, if you're familiar with we actually played opener. I say we, no longer a part of that, so I'll just go ahead and say they played their home opener against the Seattle Sounders this year. And then Seattle came down and played against LAFC this year. So I was able to go and be a part of that project starting in August of 2015 and then just ended in August of 18 and recently transitioned to corporate on the Legends side. So anybody familiar with Legends at all? Get it? No? So Legends is essentially a consulting work with new stadium projects or anything related to trying to increase revenue. That's where they started. The owners of Legends is actually the New York Yankees boys. So as you can imagine, Jerry Jones, associated with anything that will go ahead and drive incremental revenue, he's going to be a part of it. So Legends was the consultant on deck to go in and assist with the Cowboys in the AT&T Stadium. From there, the second new stadium development that they're a part of was the 49ers. And then they transitioned to the Atlanta Falcons. And then we'll hit on a couple of the other projects. And that's how I got involved with LAFC is actually through Legends. So it was the first MLS project that they're a part of. As we hit on global attractions, one question I get asked, and I'm 6 weeks on the job, so FYI, is what has the transition been like? And global attractions, what does that even mean? I would say that of trying to enhance, add value, create unique experiences for any organized group of individuals that are come together for a common cause. And so what I mean by that, it doesn't have to be tied to a sporting event. It could be tied to a music event. It could be tied to a play. It could be tied to an attraction that has historical, iconic building significance in a city. And a brand ambassador for us. And so we think about Legends 360, and this is a little bit of the process, and we'll go through this and then I'll get into the good stuff. But Legends 360 portfolio is expanded. First, they just started out as a ticket sales and premium sales arm. So their sole purpose was to go ahead and come into these situations. If you had an existing staff, we could go ahead and offer our expertise, and then we would go ahead and guarantee you revenue amounts and sell through for like suites, club seats, loge boxes, premium products that would then help just the new stadium or going through a renovation. What we realized through that is now we go ahead and offer what we call the Legends 360 service, wheel of services. So from a feasibility study, we can go and start out. So when you're trying to go ahead, and I'll use Key Arena here, if they're trying to go and get financing for the renovation, they would have to go to a Goldman Sachs. In order for Goldman Sachs to go ahead and provide $500 million, whatever, $800 million of money to go ahead and help out with that renovation, you have to prove that that renovation is actually going to go ahead and create additional revenue streams and be able to go ahead and pay back that loan. So CSL is able to do that. They're based out of Dallas. Project management. A lot of times when you're working on a new stadium development or a property, you can have 5, 6, 7 different vendors. The beautiful part about Legends, it's one vendor. So we can come in and be your CSL. We can go ahead and do the feasibility study, project development. We can go ahead and do project management. So if you're familiar with like construction, if anybody's built a house or an add-on, you use a contractor. They're two. Part of our repertoire, that's how we started. So we'll handle ticket sales, we'll handle premium sales. We also, when I was with Los Angeles Football Club, it was the first project where we handled the sponsorship sales. So you think about naming rights for a building and or the kit. If anybody's seen YouTube across the kit, YouTube TV, we were able to go and be a part of that. And then finally, now the full wheel, what's the end consumer touch? They touch the front line, which is your hospitality, whether that's merchandise and or food and beverage. And all those elements impact the experience. And so as we think about it and where Legends wants to grow and where they want to go is going to be part and offer this wheel of services to any property that's looking to enhance their guest experience. And that could be tied to sports, it could be tied to an attraction, it could be tied to a venue, an amphitheater, whatever that might be. And so that's kind of where it was born. And now, this is the type of services that we're able to go out. And typically it will start with feasibility study, project management, and then transition into sales and then hospitality at the end. Make sense? Any questions? So that's a little bit of an overview of Legends, like who Legends is. We have offices in Los Angeles. We have offices in Dallas. We have offices in New York City. Those are kind of our corporate headquarters. I'm based out of LA. And so, you know, from a jobs for those that are looking for an opportunity, there's a ton of jobs across all of our different portfolios. We're always looking to hire. So it's a pretty cool landscape to be a part of, because you're definitely part of something much bigger than just the property that you're at. I mean, you could be based in Seattle, you could be based in LA, but to know that you have kind of this mothership behind you driving is pretty impressive. When it comes to attractions, and the folks will ask, you know, the difference between sports and attractions, and over the 6 weeks I've been given, I would say, an MBA in attractions. Couple things stand out is, I'll use LA as an example. Right now there's the Los Angeles Chargers and Los Angeles Rams project that's going on. It's Stadium Entertainment District. It's a $3 billion outfit. It's 250 acres. It's not just a stadium. It's literally a community, which is pretty incredible for the Kroenke Group and what we're building out there. And so Legends is managing on that. They're also in charge of sponsorship and ticket. There's the California Stadium, which is where Los Angeles Football Club plays. That was also a Legends, and that was the first Legends 360. There's also museums that are going up there. So if you think about, you know, there's the Grammy Museum is going to go and be built there in the next few years. They also have the George Lucas Museum that is going to go and be built there in a few years. Originally, it looked at San Francisco and Chicago and ultimately landed in LA. It's going to be positioned right next to the Coliseum where USC plays, which is going through a $270 million renovation. Bank of California Stadium was a $350 million building. You guys are familiar with Ballmer and the Clippers if you're from Seattle. So he's looking at potentially moving to Inglewood right next to the Lays project and building out his own new stadium. And I know FIFA is, you know, going to be played in North America. More than likely, LA will be a city that is awarded, you know, a game or two. An inertia for tourism, so you're no longer dependent just on the people that live in your city. Seattle's a great hub for that as well, especially with what you guys having going on with the ships coming in, the cruises and things. And so you look at all these emerging markets, and so what Legends did is they dove into attractions about 3 years ago. Has anybody been to One World Observatory in New York City? So amazing, incredible, the elevator ride up, right? So that's a Legends property. That was the first observation deck that we moved to LA. And so we have the tallest building there. All these buildings are roughly the tallest building in each respective city, around 1,000 feet. And they're more than an observation deck. They're more of an attraction than anything. The reason I bring that up is that now we have New York, DC, LA, Seattle. We're looking to go and build out in Miami, one in Chicago, and then we also have London, which is the Shard. So geographically, we kind of have every region covered. And then from I would say a tourism, why we see the opportunity for us. You think about like millennial families with young kids, they typically are more likely to go out and purchase experiences than tangible items. They'd rather go on a trip. You think about solo travelers, I'm definitely one of them. Like, I'm completely comfortable going to a city by myself and just exploring. That didn't happen 10, 15 years ago. That's starting to go ahead and change. And then you think about, you know, I would say, overseas traveler. China alone had 147 people visit the United States in 2017. 147 million people. India is another one that's growing, and they're going to be the largest and youngest population by 2022. And they're huge travelers to a lot of these places just mentioned. So not only can you go ahead and tap into kind of the local vibe, but you have this huge opportunity and expanding your brand, and that's why I mentioned global attractions, trying to go ahead and grow exponentially, so you're not just landlocked, because when you do build out a stadium, it's great, but typically NBA season's 44 games long, NHL season's 40 games long, and NFL season goes on, and then you can do some different shows, but that's why you start to see properties being built out around, these entertainment districts being built around, because you want to go ahead and be able to utilize 365 and be able to generate revenue from those 365. The beautiful thing about all the attractions is they're open 365, right? So every single day they're running and operating, which gives us the opportunity to go ahead and maximize revenue. And so these are the ones that Legends is a part of. One World Observatory, and maybe just tell the group a couple takeaways, so it's just not me spewing out, like, I don't want to be that sales guy.
Oh, it's remarkable.
Ooh, remarkable. Good choice.
I've been twice. Each time, the 2 times I've been to New York. You go on like an elevator ride up, and it's the landscape of New York starting from like 1400s, and it's like all digital, and so you can see like the buildings rise, and then it ends in like present day when you're at the top.
Yep.
And then you go into like this room, and you see a bunch of different screens of the streets of New York in different places, and then these like windows open, and then you can see like the whole skyline and view. And so definitely it's like an experience, and then you go and you can see the whole top.
You're hired. I'm done. I'm good. I'm good.
So cool. I love it.
No, that was awesome. A much better explanation than I would have gave, so I appreciate that. But I think she it's much more than an observation deck. Like, I grew up in Michigan, and I remember the first time going to Chicago and heading over to the Sears Tower, and you get up there and you pay $15 or whatever it is. I was like 17 years old, going on a science trip or something like that, and you get to the top and it's like, okay. And at that time there was no cell phones. So it's like you pull out your camera and then take a photo, and then you don't know what that photo is going to look like until about 2 weeks later when you get it developed. So the whole immediate gratification exactly wasn't there. But legitimately, there was nothing to do. And so now you look at these buildings, and how can we evolve them? How can we grow them? How can we create immersive experiences that create time where you want to hang out? And so we view it, each of these are 1,000-foot vertical entertainment districts. And we have an opportunity from start to finish, from the moment you hit the box office and purchase your ticket that day through the end result, to go ahead and feel like you're engulfed in an experience that you can't get anywhere else. And so we have the One World Observatory, as I mentioned. It's in New York City. You have Sky Space in LA, which actually has an outdoor slide. You can kind of see it on there. You can legitimately get a, so we talk about thrill. You can get in a glass enclosed slide, 1,000 feet in the air. Skyview, which is right here. Panoramic views, and I actually have the opportunity to go and travel to all these different properties. Today's view is right now, but I think you guys with the mountain, like most of these, out. It truly is an amusement park that's 1,000 feet in the air on less than 2 acres of land, right in the bay there. They'll have bungee jumping. They'll have exterior as far as a Ferris wheel on the back end. It'll have a lot of event space, unique spaces in there as well. Entertainment. It's literally a vertical entertainment district, 1,000 feet. And obviously Open 365, we can appeal to a wide demo. And then from there, the View and the Shard, which is one of the most iconic buildings in London. Pretty incredible. Obviously, we'll continue to go ahead and expand the portfolio. But I would say the number one thing is each of these are the starting point in each city. That's how we want to define them. We want to remove the word observation from our vernacular. We truly do believe these are entertainment districts, attractions. As she mentioned, the New York City experience it's not just about the view. The view is certainly a piece of it, but it's in a whole experience from top to bottom. The other thing is we want to go ahead and elicit, like, say, an symbols for the local community as well. So there's educational components, like legitimately you can go with any school group and start to go in and look at all the different elements, the historical elements, as she had mentioned. In New York City, it shows you from the 1400s and how New York City is built up to where it is today. We have elements like that at each of these properties as well. The fun part of it, we want to go ahead and engage and have unique opportunities. And then I would say the final thing is the social sharing opportunity. We talk about like Instagram moments, and these are definitely Instagram moments where you can go ahead and then post and then tag, and then we can communicate. And once again, all of us are trying to go ahead, I think, now, as opposed to buying the newest technology or buying the newest this or that. We're much more likely to spend a couple $100s on an experience, something that's meaningful, something that's impactful, something that creates a memory, and that's what these spaces are set up to do. So you look at One World, I mean, it is the tallest building. There's a lot of competition in that marketplace, but it's over 1,000 feet tall. Really cool, really unique. It's only been open for about 3 years, but already is getting 2.4 to 3 million visitors a year, which is pretty incredible, and that number will continue to grow. Kind of see here some of the elements that we have there, and she had mentioned on it. You see the elevator in the second photo, and then on the far right, all the different elements there. Ironically enough, what is we started going to program it out. So we do sunrise yoga, sunset yoga. We'll go ahead and do jazz nights up on the balcony. And so you start to think about these spaces. These are living, breathing organisms. This isn't, and you see this a lot in sports now too. There's themes, there's developments, there's programming that's above and beyond just the game itself. But how can we create a destination during non-peak hours? And so for us, we have a unique opportunity to go ahead and do that with the exterior space. People are holding, it's crazy the number of wedding requests we get. Imagine being in high school and being able to hold your prom 1,000 feet in the air and be able to go ahead and be in LA and see the Hollywood sign, some of the other spots. So it's a really cool event space. We also have, and each of these properties, another thing I should mention is we run and operate everything from the operations to the food and beverage to the merchandise to the sales portion, both for tickets and sponsorship. So once again, each of these spaces are a complete 360 wheel where we run and operate. And the beautiful thing for the property manager is he has one neck to choke, which is mine right now. But hopefully we're doing everything all right and we're moving in the right direction. But it gives our ability to be truly creative and not have to worry about the friction that sometimes can happen when you're trying to work with outside vendors, because everybody kind of has their own agenda. We have one agenda. What's the amazing experience for our guests? And that's what to all these folks. Yeah.
How do you go about designing your programs to drive?
Great question. And that's something we're going through right now. So I'll go back to New York, and we'll use this. Totally my opinion, and I think our opinion at Legends is that there isn't a cookie cutter route to take from a programming perspective. What works in New York, the New York mentality is not the same than the Seattle mentality. I'm here today. I catch a flight at 5. I head to D.C. Right, and I'm from Michigan. I've been in L.A. for 3 years. Diego, if I go to Seattle, I go to Portland. Those are all three and I've been to Eugene, Oregon as well, like the University of Oregon. All of them are uniquely different. I think for us, our programming needs to celebrate those uniquely different elements. Our food and beverage programming, our food should go ahead and mirror what's special about the culinary experience here in Seattle. Craft brews, if we have specific craft brews, or here, craft coffee I would even go into. If we're exploring that, then that would be part of our experience, and that would be part of our program. We've talked about, and so the programming, we have a director of sales and marketing at each property that lives and breathes that property, and they're really driving that programming. And then what my role essentially is travel around the country and go ahead and kind of take best practices from each and just say, hey, what would your thoughts be on doing something like this? And we can go ahead and put a Seattle spin on it. And so for us, it's really important that we stay local, hyper local. One comment that we've always made internally. And so for us, we got to stay hyper local, and the food and beverage and the programming would appeal to that. That's one reason why in LA, sunrise and sunset yoga has killed it. We have an outdoor space. You can see beautiful sunsets. The beautiful thing about LA, 72 and sunny pretty much year round. So awesome opportunity for us to go ahead and do that. We also have worked with iHeartRadio to go ahead and do jazz nights there. And downtown is a very eclectic. If you've ever been in LA, downtown LA, it's there's an art districts there. I would say it's raw industrial urban type look and feel. There's a little bit of corporate, but at the same time, you're starting to see a lot of folks go ahead and live there, and it's a younger demo, 35 to 25. So now it's how can we go ahead and build events around that? I know specifically, as we look at this one, this one is CB Tower. There's a lot of regulations when it comes to building height for right the Capitol, but it's an amazing event space, amazing. And so what they're doing is, anybody heard of the Marines Marathon that runs through DC? So there's a marathon there that runs through DC. It's pretty famous. At least on the East Coast. When I lived in Atlanta, a lot of folks would always talk about going in to running it. But the cemetery is right there, right outside. And so the route runs right through there, and it runs across the river, and it goes over to the Washington Monument. And so we're going to utilize this space as a viewing platform for families and guests to go ahead and watch their loved ones run the race. And so I think that is something that we wouldn't be able to necessarily replicate in a lot of other areas. But for CEB, it makes a lot of sense. To the region, I would say, is the best way to put it. And then when you get to Skyview, so I know on Seattle, if you're looking at the Seahawks home games, you don't have tickets to the game. We actually will go ahead and move TVs in. We do viewing parties. And so you can go to the observatory, Skyview Observatory, go ahead and pay your $15, go ahead and get up, and then literally watch the Seattle Seahawks from 1,000 foot above the ground. Get amazing views. There's a full-service bar and restaurant right there as well. So it's another way to go ahead, instead of going to your local watering hole, you can go ahead and check out the scenes of the views from there. Doing yoga, an email just went out today. We'll do sunrise yoga in Seattle as well. Immersive experiences, and we're able to go to around, and that tablet knows exactly where you're at geographically, so they can go ahead and pinpoint specific locations throughout the city. We actually have that at Skyview as well, where you can go to each of the tablets, and that's why I say each of these spaces are even if you've been to Seattle a million times over, taking your family into the city, especially if you live in the burbs, maybe 40, 45 minutes out, you work here, but immediately you go out to your home and you never really visit back. This could be a great starting point because you can go ahead and get a panoramic view of the entire city and then outline all the spots. We say that we're not in direct competition with the Space Needle. You should just go ahead and come to us, view us first, and then go to the Space Needle next, because it's a completely different experience, right? It's completely different. It's iconic building as well. Smith Tower, I know, is extremely popular here as well. So we want you to go ahead and this is more about experience in Seattle than anything else, and we want to go ahead and do that in each of our respective cities. Elements, and so we can create thrill rides, as we talked about, which will be in Chicago, or when I mentioned in Miami, there's immersive dining experiences. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, which we'll create in Chicago, which would be really cool and unique. It's pretty popular in Asia, which we'll tap into here. So there's the Aeon Center, Millennium Park, and then the Skyrise. You look at the architecture of the building, the way it's shaped. It's actually a hollow inside. There'll be an amphitheater down at the bottom with a food court. Think about food trucks. Really more of a destination place for activity and excitement. I would say you could hold different concerts there, and as you travel up, there'll be unique spaces inside. So no offense against Troy booking this space, but imagine having the conference in a space like that as opposed to being in a hotel or a convention center. this really could be a unique opportunity for us to go ahead and go into those spaces. And then the thrill rides of it, the unique, you want to go ahead and move people through from a guest experience perspective. So these are some of the things that are being discussed and in development. This is scheduled to go ahead and open in 2021 again. So you can actually do the bungee jumping right there. The thrill ride, it'll be the largest drop, so about 1,000 feet if you've ever done that, like just almost like a demon drop that will go ahead and go in. You could do, so flying theater, we'll be able to go ahead and have your feet dangle and be able to go look out to the bay. So there's a bunch of different elements that we can go ahead and do in some of these spaces. Like I said, they're truly like a vertical attraction, vertical entertainment district, vertical amusement park. And then London as well, and each space takes on its own personality. This one is a little bit more proper. It's in London, right? So one of the best things they do is at nighttime they have champagne toast at sunset. And that's one of the big programs that they've been able to go where business will go and come in. And think about the opportunities are endless in this area. Meaning, if I worked for an MLS club, we have 17 home matches, 22,000 capacity. Quick math, I got 450 to 470,000 people that come through the building. I sell to Delta, was the airline partner there. Number of impressions, measurements, all that good stuff, really not unique. It's the same 22,000 people every single time. Now they're building affinity, brand affinity, it's a different. But for here, we can appeal to a completely different demo when it comes to partnership opportunities, because as you look at all of our spaces, on average, they're going anywhere from 500,000 to 2.4 million people, visitors a year, but those are unique eyeballs, unique opportunities, and global. A lot of our representation is based elsewhere outside of the region, so we can definitely have that local flair, that local feel, but at the same time, we can work with brands and try to figure out how they want to go ahead and maybe get into the Asian market, maybe get into the Indian market. And so for us, we have a bunch of different assets that we can utilize. And then from an experiential perspective, we'll never look at a partner that isn't going to go ahead and enhance the experience. We certainly don't want to go ahead and have brands just plastered throughout that diminish or pull away from what the space is set up to do, which is create views, amazing views. And so these are just some of the different opportunities that we have out there. And that's the slide that I was talking about as far as up in LA. And then obviously, this is the sunrise yoga in LA. So if anyone wants to try, yeah.
In terms of the revenue, how do you, on a per person basis, balance out your bias towards value of one property versus volume in another, or is it just the same?
Great question as well. So each space, if you think about any type of business that's driven by consumers, is always focused on what's the throughput, like what's the time from start to finish of any individual, what's the dwell time, what's the per caps, however you want to measure it. And then for us, because we're 1,000 feet up in the air, the only way to get to 1,000 feet, I think for any of us that we'd appreciate, is an elevator. We won't want to go ahead and take the stairs. So there's the capacity limits, and then so operationally drives what you just hit on. So at each space, it's a little bit different. In some spaces, you have to go on an elevator off and get on another one and go up again. Other ones, we're able to go and take you straight to the top. At Seattle, you can literally go from floor 1 all the way to floor 72 right off the bat, and you're there. So it makes it a little bit easier. And then the capacity of each space will go ahead and drive that. I think this is something that is happening in sports right now, too. A sellout isn't always the most positive thing. And a sellout doesn't necessarily mean that you drove and generated the most revenue, right? And so I think from that perspective, if we can drive a higher ATP, average ticket price, by creating a premium experience or a premium event, then the number of headcount that's going through the space might not be as relevant. And so I think for us, it's balancing the two. Typically folks maybe a market, I'll use market A, 10 to 2 is our downtime. So does it make more sense for us to go ahead and focus solely on a premium experience, sell a ticket for, or instead of a $25 ticket, we'll sell a ticket for $50. We'll get half the number of people, but their experience is going to be that much better. So 100%, I think it's a delicate balance of both, and we're still going through that. The beautiful thing. My past life, I would be worried about one thing, driving sales. And then I would hand that baton off to operations and be like, good luck, and see what happens. Now where we're at, it gives me different perspective because I sit with the operations folks and I say, okay, here's the world that I want to create. How functional is this world? And then they come back and say, you're actually insane. That's never going to work. There's no way to go and get that number of people and still maintain the level of experience that we want to create. Because you need to think about attractions, and you think about amusement parks, you think about restaurants, think about anything consumer facing. And I say this even outside of sport, is if I go to a restaurant and I have a horrible experience with the hostess or the waiter, the likelihood that I go back to that restaurant is nil, even if the food was great. And so for us, I think it's the same way. We spend a lot of time and energy on all our touch points and our attention of One World Observatory. So we spend a lot of time recognizing those individuals that do a phenomenal job because they're the face of each of these spaces. The first thing you do, you go on Yelp, you go in and look at there. You can go ahead and maximize revenue opportunities. And it might mean, you know what, instead of doing 500 people during that hour, let's do 250, but let's change the experience a little bit, and let's give them a champagne toast at sunset, and we're able to, and then we'll go ahead and create hors d'oeuvres as well, and it'll be an all-inclusive experience, so you can come in from 6:30 to 8 and see a sunset in LA, and you can take your photo next to the we have wings on the outside. Take your photos next to the wings, which obviously fits with the City of Angels. If anybody's ever looked at anything in LA on Instagram, you know what I'm talking about. Everybody takes photos with wings. And so we're able to go ahead and do that and create that type of experience. And no, I'm not judging. I've taken the photo with wings, so I'm just going to say that. But you get the point. So yes, 100%, it goes both ways. But it's on us to go ahead and create those experiences. And then even if you've center, if you haven't been yet, you know, the items need to go ahead and match the local flair. A lot of stuff represents Seattle. You know, if I'm going to New York, I'm definitely the cheesy person that's going to go and buy I Love New York shirt, right? And I'm going to go and buy one for my nephew, and I'm going to go and bring that home. I came here, I bought a Sasquatch for my nephew, right? Like, and they have a Sasquatch branded doll at Skyview because it fits the Pacific Northwest. And so for us, it's, yes, we are a global company and we go ahead and we'll help and assist, but each independent property has to go ahead and still have a theme, still embody something that means something to that city. Otherwise, it's going to come across as fake, formal, and dreary, right? About the weddings, some of the other events that we can do. Think about a New Year's party 1,000 feet in the air, that's pretty cool. So there's a ton of events. I think that from the amount of things that we could do is we haven't even reached the tipping point yet when it comes to those elements. And all these are sponsorable assets as well. So for us, as we talk to brands, whether they be local, whether they be regional, whether it be national, it's a unique opportunity for you to integrate yourself into an attraction, which is way different than an amusement park, way different than a sporting facility. So, hence, thank you. Yeah. Whew. All right, good. I know we have a broad group too, not trying to hold you here, definitely can go ahead and leave, but if you have questions, whether it's sports related, legends related, attractions related, more than happy to answer. Well, thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you for the time. Good questions.